I know you've all heard the term, or most people have heard the term, like your brows are sisters. They're not twins. Sometimes they're sisters. Sometimes they're cousins. Sometimes they're distant friends, okay? Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm making Yvonne, and today we're talking all about brows. We're talking all about brows. I truly believe that brows can either make or break your makeup look depending on if you get them right. And some days you're just not having a good brow day. I have my concealer on, I have my base while my concealer is setting. That's usually the time that I do my brows if I haven't done them before. So I figured, I was just like, let me turn on the camera. I don't think I've done I've done a brow cleanup routine, but never actually like a explanation for why I do what I do, right? So it's a couple of products that I like to use when I'm doing my brows. This one in particular, the Precisely My Brow pencil. I just love this pencil because you can get in there, you can become really precise, and hence the name, but you can really get in there and, you know, make hair-like strokes, and it's just good. I've also been loving using a brow gel. Right now, my go-to brow gel is the Got To Be Glued Brow and Edge Gel. You just use it for my brows. I really don't use it for my edges. I teeter between a couple of different shades just depending on how light I want my brows or how dark I want them. Typically, I go for a shade 5. Right now, I'm using the shade 4, and I've even gone lighter than that. I use this now that I like a more sculpted brow. I know bushy brows, like Untamed brows are in, but for me, in my house, first of all, we're gonna serve the Lord, and second of all, I like my brows to be sculpted, okay? So I like starting because right now, just the way my brows are, I like to lengthen them. I like to give them more of a straighter edge, and that's what I do. So I go in the bottom and I kind of just start making light strokes just to give it some shape. And depending on, you know, what look I'm going for, sometimes I might have them more lifted, sometimes I might round them more, but for today, we're just gonna go the more lifted route so you can see the arch. And then I like to kind of taper it off and just kind of get the shape together. And then, as I'm tapering it off, I like to, when I get toward the front, kind of like feather it out. And then I love the spoolie on the other side because you can kind of brush the product through it. And there you have it. So you have a nice sculpted brow. So without drawing like a straight line, I kind of like feather in a line and create the brow. And then kind of extend my tail just so that I just have a little bit more length. Now, I know you've all heard the term, or most people have heard the term, like your brows are sisters, they're not twins. Sometimes they're sisters, sometimes they're cousins, sometimes they're distant friends, okay? So, you know, that's just what it is. You know, sometimes you might have a brow that's higher than the other, because I feel like once your brows are done, if your brows are done, it makes and creates your face. So another thing that I like doing is I like using a potted cream consistency concealer to clean up around my brows. Now I have used my other concealer, my normal concealer that I use just to highlight, but for me, I just find this easier to control when I'm using a more creamy concealer. Initially, when I first started, you know, with makeup, I was using the MAC. It comes in the quad, well, like in like the little palette there, concealer palette. But then I would notice, like, after a while, my brows throughout the day would get so oily. And I mean, like, what gives? I said, oh no, this this is not it for me. So, and depending on the day, I might go closer to my skin tone, or I might go a little lighter. This is actually like what would be my concealer shade. This is Amande from NARS. And then I also like using caramel as well. Depending on how sculpted I want my brows, I may go in over the top. But I'll use like my foundation for that. And if I'm doing my brows prior to putting on my foundation, then I will go ahead and just use the same concealer, because you're literally going to, you know, cover it up. So no harm, no foul. No highlighter brow right there. But just depending on what look I'm going for at the moment. Sometimes your brows can get lost, meaning that, you know, like when you're putting different powders on, they might smudge a little bit, so you might have to go back in and touch them up. And I'm perfectly okay with that. We're gonna go back and see if anything needs to be done to our brows. And then sometimes I'll go back and, you know, kind of clean them up. Another thing, if you're going like this, try to relax your brows while you're doing them. So when your face is at its natural resting spot, it's not like your brows aren't, you know, doing the watusi or anything like that. So the next thing I like to do is, after I've applied the rest of my powders and everything, I like to go in and set them. And this just makes sure that they last throughout the day, and you know, they don't smudge and all of that. And I just brush it in like an upwards motion. I don't really like put a lot of product on there. Like, that's not the concern, like smothering your brow with product, but I want enough to set them. And then I like to just take my finger and like kind of dab it on there to kind of press it in. Make sure that, you know, they look the way that I want them to. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you haven't already, please go ahead and take a moment and give this video a thumbs up. It really does help out my channel, and it helps get my video out to more viewers, and we definitely want to do that. Also, if you're new here, welcome. Go ahead and subscribe. It's free 99. I promise you, it doesn't cost a thing. So go ahead, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can be notified when I have new videos coming up. And yeah, check out some of my other videos while you're here. I'll link them in the cards for you as well as below. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.